about his own journey, right? And just a quick mic check. If everybody can hear me and listen to me, type Y in the chat box. Yes or Y. Let me get 2 to 3 yeses. If you can see me, hear me, and both of us. Let me just enable chat for everybody. 1 second. Yeah. Can you hear me, guys? Guys, I've enabled chat. Okay, awesome. Thanks, Vinita. Thanks, Abdul. Thanks, Alak. Amar, Ashish, Chandan, Dakshinmurthy, good to see you. Meet, great to see you from Bombay. Pradeep, Prasad, Sachin, another IITian. Nice. Santarao, Srinivas, Siva, Subrata, Vinita, ma'am, good to see you. Awesome. And for those of you tuning in from YouTube, you're going to have the Zoom link much later. I would request everybody to summarize the top 3 takeaways you will have. This is going to be a really, really phenomenal session. Saurav, and I'm going to give the full spleen of introduction. He's done a B2B startup, and he's now doing a D2C, direct to consumer, and earlier business to business startup. So it's an exciting journey. Okay, cool. So without further ado, let me first introduce Saurav. Saurav's a stellar background, 2003 IIT Bombay BTech batch, then conventional journey, went to the US to Johns Hopkins, did his bioengineering, if I'm not mistaken. Biomedical, correct. And then he did his ISB MBA, so way back in 2010. Then he did his startup, and that was his first startup. And then he did his second startup. So the first startup called Sparsh Nephro Plus, Nephrocare, was a dialysis company, and it eventually got acquired by Fresenius, which is a German conglomerate. Think of it like the Google for in urology, in that sector. And now it's his second innings. Now he's running direct to consumer. His recent company also raised high 8 figures in valuation and 8 figures in funding. So Saurav, what we're going to do is, first off, thank you so much for coming. I've had the pleasure of talking to you. I know we've been close friends last, since 2-3 years. You turned down funding for my company, my previous one. So I still have that grudge. But more importantly, I saw something in terms of like our conversations were always, for me, very insightful. You were always contrarian in thinking. That's why I'd requested you to come to the community. Pixeltests, for those of you who don't know, who are watching on LinkedIn, Twitter, or YouTube, is a fast-growing community of Web3 and AI professionals who are immersed, who are committed to learning. And some of them also have the startup bent. The average age of the community member is about 36, 38-year-old, is a typical IT professional and who's trying to go to the next leg of his career. It could be an upskilling in job, or it could be a startup, so on and so forth. Okay, cool. So first, I wanted to, thank you once again for taking the time out. I know you're extremely busy, and let's get straight into the first question. So I had segmented the next 40 minutes, 45 minutes into 3 parts. One is pre-Sparsh era, your journey, IITB days, etc. Then, the MS days, then the MBA days. What was your mindset like, right? And if we can go back into that repository, then the actual, with Gaurav GP, your co-founder, the days of, Sparsh, and then now with your new co-founder, your new company. So these are 3 segments, and wanted to touch upon elements of each of them. That's the theme. And then we're going to talk about entrepreneurship, your own investments. So I'll sort of stop talking now, and let's go straight into the first question. So IITB, electrical engineering, so you're right on top there. Talk us about your mindset, then where you, go back to those days, were you always thinking of entrepreneurship or job? What was your, state of affairs there?
So first of all, Jay, thank you for having me here. It's always great to interact with, young folks and, getting to know the kind of people who have decided to take up your course. That means these are people who are highly motivated to do something. They are trying to change and add to their own, skill set. So it's always fun to talk to those people. So I'm expecting some good questions. And thank you for taking me back to the most fun days, I guess, of my life, which is my IIT Bombay and Hopkins days. And back then it was typical, I come from a typical middle class background, get into some good college, take up a job. That was a whole, plan. And then once I got into IIT, typical, you have to do masters. If you are an electrical engineer, good, GPA, you have to plan for that. So I did go for biomedical engineering, and that was a very, very good phase of my life because number one thing, you get paid to study, and I think if anything, if somebody could have had a career of being a professional student, I would have really enjoyed that because I love studying. So that was a good phase of my life, and after my masters, I started my PhD in radiology actually. And then as fate would have it, I got bored of it and that was one of the first phases in my life where I realized that I'm a guy who needs more action. So PhDs it's phenomenal. If in my life I can go back and do it again, I might want to do it because it's going very deep into a subject, and for a lot of time there will not be many changes that you will see. And I had the same issue then, and I decided, like a lot of techniques we come up with, for those techniques to really be out in the open, it would take like 10-15 years, and there's too long a time frame. So that was the first time I thought maybe I should go out and do something. My first idea was to, I took a break from PhD. I did a job, and then during the job, I met a lot of entrepreneurs. It was in New York. That was a time when New York was the hub, not Valley. All IITs there were more IITs, I think, in New York. The transition happened sometime after, Facebook came, and then one after another, a lot of these tech companies came. And now, obviously, people don't go to New York. People flock to the Valley. But that was the time. So, and I wanted to come back to India to do something on my own. And I used ISB actually kind of in a, though it's an MBA program, but it was kind of a break for me, very expensive 1-year break. But during that time, my whole idea was to, let's look at Indian market. Let's figure out, we had some ideas back in US. I wanted to do something related to medical health. And so I started ideating with a lot of people in ISB. I met a lot of industry veterans. And the whole idea in that ISB 1 year, I was trying to figure out what is the right, company to start out of ISB. And luckily, I found Gaurav there back. He became my co-founder. We actually, and we might be one of the very few people who actually participate in a lot of business plan competitions with this business idea. We won, 2 business plan, IIM Ahmedabad business plan competition. We won kind of the first Power of Ideas by Times of India. And this was our idea. And we actually went ahead and executed it. A lot of people have won a lot of business plans and never actually executed them, but we went with our plan and we actually executed it. So that is how the whole journey
Awesome.
was.
Brilliant. So it seems like it was a very conventional journey in terms of leading up to the startup. Like, you had to go through the whole, what I call like, our college education and then masters. And then, but not until ISBs when you really became switched on about the startup, etc. So just talk us about, so first off, co-founders, and we'll get to that point again, because I am very interested in that. Talk us about how does a electrical engineer, biomed, I know you health was your theme, but how do you go into dialysis, which is like, I mean, everybody's probably thinking in those days about apps, software, so on. I don't know if e-commerce took off then, but roughly around that time, Flipkart also got funding. But how does somebody get into something very boring like dialysis, etc.? Talk us a little more about that part.
So it's funny you tell me what was back then. It is difficult for you to even remember. So we started our company in August 2010. There were 2 other companies that started back then. One is called Zerodha and one is called Freecharge. So, everybody has regrets,
100% success rate. 100% success, 3 on 3. Got it.
But the thing is that, maybe we could have picked up another idea, but due to some reason, me and Gaurav were both fixated on either health or education. And we decided on health. And as I told you, I kept meeting a lot of people, and one of these chance encounters. And, whenever you think about the exact idea that you do, it will be series of serendipities. A lot of people might look back and say that was the plan. But it will be a lot of serendipities which will end up, taking you through a path where there will be only one option left. But and it will seem like a plan, but most of us, I have spoken to many other people. For most of us, it is different, chance steps we took. And like we decided health because of some reason. Once we decided health, I started talking to a lot of doctors and stuff like that. And one of my good friends from IIT Bombay. His father was a doctor, and he had visited me in ISB, and he said, "Why don't you meet my dad?" And his dad told me about dialysis. Till then, I did not even know about dialysis. It was over a dinner. He talked to me about dialysis. He was the head of care, so he, introduced me to some of the nephrologists in care hospital, and it just took off from there. We started talking. We got serious about the idea. We started meeting a lot of medical device manufacturers, equipment manufacturers, distributors, and we, realized that dialysis is a good problem to solve because most hospitals you talk to, they will tell you that we will make the best hospital that is possible. We will make the best CT, cardiothoracic surgery room possible. We'll bring in robotic surgery into India. Whenever you talk to doctors, they will say we will bring the best technology so that the best treatment is available in Hyderabad. But the problem was dialysis was not like a normal disease where most of the conventional hospitals were doing it wrong, because there the major cost or the major problem in the patient's life was not per se dialysis. It was the travel time required for dialysis, because dialysis has to be done every 2 days. And we went to Care Hospital, Apollo Hospital, met a lot of patients, and it was striking when we found out that some of the patients told us that they travel every alternate day. And I asked them, then what about your job? And one of the patients started, he broke down. He said that that's the worst part, because I lost my job because of this, and now I'm dependent on my family. And that is when we realize that people are getting it wrong. It is not the requirement of making the best setup in one place. This requires a more hub and spoke kind of place where maybe the nephrologist is based on the Hyderabad or some Vijayawada or one of the big cities, but you have to open smaller dialysis centers around the country. And that is when we also spoke to nephrologists why they are not doing it, and they told us their problems, and we could figure out that this is an actual ops problem that nobody's trying to solve, and we are the right people to do it. So that is how it the genesis of the idea took place, and we are one of the first. There are a few other people who realized this, and they started opening up dialysis centers, standalone dialysis centers in India. We were one of the first to realize that in India the patient psychology is not yet set where they will be going to a standalone dialysis centers, because they still think it is a big disease, something can go wrong. So we decided we'll go hub and spoke model, but we'll be in smaller hospitals in the small cities. Mm-hmm. So we're in a center in hospital model. We are one of the earliest ones to do that. A lot of people have copied us after that. And that is how this whole thing started and took off.
Wow. So for those of you watching this, there's one key insight that you should definitely write down in your notepad right now. So one is, even though you might not have sector expertise, just listen to the number of conversations, or imagine the number of conversations Saurav and GP, the co-founder, the team must have had in terms of doctors, in terms of nephrologists, in terms of owners of hospitals, small or big. Imagine the number of towns, cities they must have gone to get that unique insight. Like, in hindsight, it seems very, very easy, right? So write down, you have to do unscalable things to get to that maybe one or two traction points, right? And sort of correct me if I'm wrong. Can you tell me just an order of that 1-2 years when you quit, when you finished ISB and then you started embarking? I remember you telling me in front of KBR that you had a conversation with your father just before you started the company that I have less than maybe 3 figures or 4 figures in the bank, and if in 1 or 2 years, if nothing happens, I'm going to go get back to a job. Thankfully, you never got back to that. But can you talk about that mindset, that 1-2 critical years where obviously you put non-linear effort, unscalable things, so that people kind of understand that what it takes to get that initial thrust and momentum?
Sure. Actually, that's a very important point for most of the people who start thinking about startup. I also tell them that for everybody, that idea is different. I feel the best time to start up is just after your college, actually, when you have, people might think, what can I do? But most of the problems are out there. Somebody has to just focus and think through a solution by talking to a lot of different people and figuring out a solution. So that is one of the best times. The other best time is, I think, post 50. Most people who talk to me now, they are at this age where they're 40, 35. I always ask them, are you married? Do you have kids? And I take them through that process because it's very important. So when I came back from US, I had some savings. I put, some of it into my education at ISB, and remaining thing went to Sparsh. And I was very clear that I do not have any family wealth or something. So I had told my dad that if this gets over, I will take up a job. And that is the confidence of, in some way, on your skill set that you must have to take this plunge, because remember that most of us are good enough to get a job, right? Don't get depressed if it fails, what happens. So life is about taking as many risks as possible without killing yourself. That's the key, because most of the risk reward scenarios in life are asymmetric, and and that is a major problem, I think, in our education system, in our family values. We always talk about don't take risks, don't take risks, don't take risks. But you have to remember that the idea is not to not take risk, but to be able to take a risk where the reward might be substantial more than the risk. And life is actually not linear, that if you take X risk you get X return. No, life is about, if you take X risk, most likely you'll get 3X return, and there will be some risks which we took X risk and you might get X by 3 return. That is a bad call to take. Life is about asymmetric, risk reward scenarios, and the key is to identify what might be risky for me might not be risky for Jay. What might be risky for Jay might not be risky for me. And that is where the, whatever icing on the cake is, or whatever, I don't know what is the, favorite adage you can put it there. But the idea is to find that for yourself. Something might be very risky for the world, but not for you, which can happen through 2-3 ways. So I always tell people how to look at ideas. When you look at idea, you first make a list of things that you have. You have some expertise, you have some, cash, you might have network. All these things are important things. So write them down and try to figure out whatever, resources you have. Based on that, and talk to people, you might be able to figure out what is it which other people think is very risky, but because of your knowledge, because of your network, because of your, skill set, something might be less risky for you. The key is to find that out, and then embark on your journey there. And I am telling you this with a lot of, I'm talking from my mistakes I have made. Like Sparsh, sometimes I look back and I feel a lot of it was a mistake. The only right thing about it was it's a tough idea to execute, so not a lot of competition will come in, and that's what happened. There was lack of competition, but most good ideas will have a lot of competition, and that is where your skills, your network will help you in making the difference. I took the other way around. I took a difficult idea which many people won't take, and that's what happened. Till now also, you would not have heard of like more than 5-6 dialysis chains, and it has been 10 years since we started it. And so that is how you have to look at all these ideas, and you have to take a call based on that. So what might be right for me might not be right for you. What might be right for you might not be right for me.
Awesome. Yeah, great points. Asymmetric returns, leverage your strengths. Cool. So just want to go back to that one thing. So how long did it take for you to get your first customer?
First customer. So for a B2B startup, actually, that's a tough question, because, the first customer is a tricky one. In B2C, you can find the first customer. I would say you just put hard, and therefore in D2C companies, I tell people get the first 100 customers, not first customer. Yeah. In B2B, the first customer is such a marquee, kind of chance that you have to take. You'll meet a lot of people. For me, what happened is I met a nephrologist. We started talking about this idea. He liked it. And we told him, we can set up in some remote place right now for you. But the problem is we also don't know dialysis. So what will be best for us is if we can set something up in Hyderabad, so that, we learn it there. And then, obviously you give them some equity, some kind of reward for that. Wow. So he got us in hospital because of that. He told a hospital, I will come to you. And these nephrologists are like 1,000 only in India. So I realized that most scarce resource in that whole business I was entering was the doctor. So it was important to be able to figure out a way to keep him with you. So the first doctor, I offered some equity and stuff like that, and he told a hospital that I would visit you only if you give the dialysis center to these 2 guys.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's how we got our first hospital. And once you get one hospital, then it becomes like, then we made it very, very good. And we, saw a lot of problems, we solved for them, we made very good SOPs. Then it becomes easier to get the second hospital, because and this was a good hospital actually, in Hyderabad, Sunshine Hospital.
Wow,
So with that kind of client, and we did a good job there. So Guru Reddy was happy with us. So in B2B, it is, I mean, in any startup, it is important that your customer is happy, but in B2B, it is very, very, very important.
yeah,
If your first customer is not happy with you, it becomes very tough to get the second customer. So he was happy. We got our second hospital. Then we realized that government is a big sector in health. So we got our first government hospital, Banaras Hindu University. And it took off kind of from there. After 3 hospitals, we had all kinds, big hospital, small hospital, government hospital. So we had a lot of experience based on that. And you have to spend about 6 to 8 months with 2, 3 customers only, because B2B is very different, to understand, what are the different kinds of scenarios we will face. Because if you scale up before you are ready, best chance for you to fail. And it is very important to scale while you learn, and that is very important. So in my present startup also, we are right now online, and online has, and that's why start something online. I tell people, one of the biggest thing there is, you can scale up very rapidly. Now we are going offline, and we have to be patient, because offline is just like B2B startup. You have to figure out what sells in which area of a particular city, and then figure out, what kind of stores are working for you and stuff like that, and then go from there. So we have to now flip how we are scaling up and slow down a little bit for our offline, and that's what we are doing.
awesome. So you start August 2010. It seems like it took a year-ish for the first 2, 3 customers. That's remarkable. And you got Sunshine. And for those of you who don't know, Sunshine is a big chain in Hyderabad. We are in Hyderabad as we speak. And Sunshine also got private equity funded, I think, to the tune of 50 million or 100 million. So it's a huge chain right now. I think they're primarily in orthopedics. Then they became like a full-fledged hospital.
Now KIMS has bought them actually. So KIMS gave the exit to the PE fund investors, and now it is KIMS. Yeah.
And KIMS, again, for those of you who don't know, KIMS itself, Kasturba Institute of Medical Sciences, is a huge brand, and they also have private equity funding. Okay, cool. So now let's ask the age-old question of funding. So talk about that angel journey. Did you raise capital, some seed capital before itself, prior to getting the 2, 3 customers, prior to Sunshine, or was it after or during? What is your experience there? And again, we'll now segue nicely into the mistakes. That's be the next question.
So when we started B2B, and it is really funny. I was participating in that Power of Ideas competition, and I was telling them that we are pitching to get money from investors. And one of the pitch, I told them that we run our first center right now, this that. And they asked how much money is required to run the first center, and I said it'll be around 30-40 lakhs. And they were like, wow, so you already have this much money. How did you get this money? I said, we have put in about XYZ capital. And they were like, what about the remaining? I said, everything in that center was on credit. And that was one of the biggest things the investors liked, actually, because you have to show people that you can start an idea without the capital. Capital should be, capital should be the only constraint remaining for you. And a lot of people say that I don't have capital, I cannot start. If you're thinking like that, can't start, because the whole idea of startup is that you should be able to do something in the beginning without the capital. Only then it makes sense. So our key thing was, we had some money, we put that in, and we used it only for our working capital to pay salaries. Every equipment that I bought was on credit, and I told them, this is going to succeed. Look at my credentials. Nothing, money is going nowhere. And somehow I managed to get. Once that I had some cash flow, I applied for all loans that are possible. And there is CGTMSC scheme of India, which gives loan up to 1 crore to entrepreneurs and stuff like that. And we got eventually some loan, and we took off. So till our first 2 centers, we did not have any. This was the only capital we had. We had debt, and we had our own money, and we kept paying off the interest through our profit. So it was important for us to be profitable in those days. And then we raised our first seed fund, and we raised it from a distributor in Hyderabad. So that helps. It is in the same business. He understands the business. And that is how it took off. He also had a lot of connects. So when you raise the first round of seed funding, it is very important for you to think of what else will he bring to the table, because there are a lot of, and back then money was actually a little constrained. It was not easily available for startups. Now it is flowing for startups. So at that point of time also, we took time to, sit back and think what else is this guy bringing in when we took money from him. Either we took from doctors or we took from distributors. In the present moment where money is available so easily, I would recommend everyone to always, before taking money, think what else is the angel investor bringing to the table. If he's not bringing anything, don't take him. He has to bring something. Even for investors, it might be, some kind of help in hiring people. Maybe he's well connected. It might be some way of, helping in the next round of fundraise. That is a very important part, by the way. You should see who all are they connected to, and they should be able to introduce you to people for next round of funding. Or they should have direct in B2B. It helps if they are in that industry and know a lot of your customers. They can bring the first 50 customers, which is big in B2B. So something like that they should bring into the table apart from capital, because right now capital is overflowing in the market. Even with this, funding winter that people are talking about, still the amount of money available is far more than what it was 10 years back.
Wow. So that was really strategic in terms of the distributors. I did not know that prior, before this. And doctors, I think I kind of figured. That's excellent. Okay, which leads to the next segue. So you talked about mistakes. So what are some of the mistakes? How many times was the startup dying or near death? And co-founder strife or issues there, or investor or board strife, or maybe even seems like your marquee customers, maybe did they sort of revolt or employee revolts? What are some of the mistakes you have went through when you thought like let me swim in beer and whiskey, right?
So see, if you are running not even just a startup, if you're just living your life and trying to achieve to your potential, and somebody says that I have not made any mistake in my life, that means he's not reaching his potential. Because to reach your potential, you have to take calls, leap of faith, and if you keep taking leap of faith, there will be mistakes.
Yeah.
Which you look back and you try to figure out, why it went wrong. And the key would be not to keep repeating the same mistake. You have to keep making different mistakes. So from my perspective, I would say, starting with the selection of business idea itself, I think was a mistake. It seems funny now, but it is pretty tragic if you look back at it. Because see, neither me nor Gaurav had any contacts in this, whole sector. We do not have any expertise. We are not doctors. Neither were we some, dialysis machine experts. Everything we learned while doing it. We did not have any network effects, and we did not have so much capital. It was it was very capital intensive business. Per center was requiring 52 lakhs to 1 crore, and we did not have capital either. So overall, and no network, like I told, all the 3-4 rules I told in the beginning, each one this idea fails. And in fact, the most successful startup in this space, he has become a dear friend because we used to cry on each other's shoulder for a long time. And he tells me like, dude, after, playing this for like 10 years, we are realizing that we were playing Pro Kabaddi League and we missed playing IPL, where even the guy who is not active on the match day gets paid higher than the best Kabaddi player. So that is very important, selecting the right idea.
Yeah.
So start with that. Don't make that mistake. And all of you, if the people in this, meeting right now, they all have done some course. They are trying to add some skill set like AI. So I am assuming they have some background in coding and stuff like that. Whatever skill set, this might be one of the many skill sets you have earned. Look at your skill sets. I'm telling you, the number of problems in the world is too big. You can figure out something where either one of these 3 things that I told would work for you. So pick that up. And I tell people, if you have family money, like a lot of people, like I was talking to somebody and this girl was telling me, I don't want to take money from my dad. I'm like, are you mad? Your only daughter and you're saying your dad has, family money. Think of ideas where capital will make a difference to begin with. Later you can raise money, or you can use network of your family also. And these are the things you have to use when you start up. Look at that. There will be an idea where one of your, something related to you would be your key advantage. Because a lot of people ask, right, what is the what is a differentiator in your startup? A lot of investors used to ask me. I did not know the answer to it until much later, when I have started now telling a lot of people that the differentiator is us. The entrepreneur himself is a differentiator. There's some of the ideas will be just like somebody else might be doing. It's just that we will put in some more effort to it, or maybe we figure out something which others have not, because everybody is competing in the same field and do it little differently. That these little things add up and become your differentiator. So the key differentiator is us. You are the differentiator.
Wow,
So things like that.
That was I didn't
Some of
go on.
Some of these things actually you get confidence to say it after some time. But now I've been encouraging the young entrepreneurs who, I have become mentor to. I have started telling them, tell this to the investors. And trust me, the investors also like this. It's not like it's wrong, because that's truth. But before you say this, have that confidence, right? And that confidence comes from hard work. It doesn't come just like that. It comes because you have thought through the idea so much that you know that you are the differentiator. You will figure something out. And this is very important. And then after that, I would say, I don't know, man. The next, I think, big thing is, I think we did not do the fundraise part very well, I would feel. In a capital intensive field, you have to think through it. But the good part is realizing the mistakes. I cut it down very fast. A lot of people ask me, why did you stop the analysis? I'm like, I did not stop it. I got a good exit opportunity, and looking at all my, competitors whom I talk to nowadays, I think I took the right decision. And we took a strategic sell where you get a higher valuation than what I would have otherwise got from a financial investor. So it was pretty good that way. Fresenius wanted to, enter India, and you talked about mistakes, but this was one thing we did right. And I will tell everything about everybody. A lot of people talk about how to talk about valuation, right? Valuation is nothing. You can come up with all metrics for your valuation, but ultimately valuation is depending on how many offers you have. You might have the best company, but if you have only one offer, you will get a bad valuation, unless the other guy just happens to be very generous. But most people are not. Most people are trying to, everybody's out here to get the best ROI, right? So when we were selling, we had only one offer. It was a bad offer. I stopped talking to them. I went into the market and I tried to get a second offer, like very quickly. And, the whole market will spread the news that we have got the second offer. And it helps, they're all, iBankers are calling. I tell them, yeah, we have another offer. If you have another one, then bring it to me, because I already have two. I started telling people that. And so much stress, you have only one offer. You're not talking to that guy, and you're trying to get a second offer while telling everybody that you have two offers and you're waiting for the third. And luckily, we actually managed to get a very, very, very credible second offer, which we know that we can't take because we have, whatever agreements signed with the first party. But that led to, people talk about valuation, right? The same company had a worse, cash flow scenario, because it has taken 3-4 months, got almost 1.7x valuation. Like whatever they were offering us before, they offered us that much more. While they kept telling us every meeting that they can't go 1 penny above that, whatever the value they had given me. That I think was my best negotiating ever.
Wow, 70% in 3 months.
Yes. And with a worse cash flow situation and no change in the overall company's outlook.
Wow, that's
so everybody I tell, whenever you are looking to raise funds, remember it's nothing but negotiation. Negotiation is nothing but, what is the alternative offer that somebody has, and make yourself desirable. And best way to show it is that somebody else is also desiring you by paying you more.
Wow. Yeah, so this is what is real life, right? Like for me also, this posturing, when you have nothing, when you have no penny, not even 5 rupees in your wallet, but you're like, posturing that, what, there's so many offers, etc. I don't know why schools and colleges and nobody teaches you this. Actually, the only thing closest is movies and other friends.
Yeah.
Teach you this, because it's such a crunch time for you when you had one offer. I remember for my previous company, which I folded, but Sigma had one offer, only from one guy, an American person. And at the time we were pre-revenue, but the IP was strong, but I couldn't pull it off. I couldn't do what you did. But I go back in time and I could have postured a lot more. I could have said I should have been more aggressive, all those things. But I understood, like, I didn't have enough hustle at that time. It seems
But
like
Jay, to be frank, I remember, you had brought it up in my introduction, so I have to go back and tell people, like you said, I did not fund you. But the thing is, remember at that point of time also, in our conversations, I said, you are a great guy. And I told you, you're making the same mistake that I did. You are in a wrong field. I told you that. And now you're in Pixeltests. I have already offered you money. You're not taking it now.
yeah.
But this idea also generated with our conversation. So it's not like, I think what you're doing right now is correct. This is the right, you changed ideas. And that is another thing I tell budding entrepreneurs. Learn when to kill an idea. Yeah, you are, emotionally invested, but if things are not going right, kill, because you have learned a lot of things during this journey which you can use in another startup, but you are also carrying a lot of baggage. People might think, I will pivot, and I have advised this to a lot of people. And I told you about another good friend, right? I told him to kill his company, very profitably run company, because his cap structure was wrong. He did it, he changed, he started another company, he just sold his company, and he owned 100% of the company. So he has made tons of money because he had no investor in anything. He could easily start another company. He had a lot of clients already with him, and that company was bought off, and he's very happy now, like insanely happy. And I'm giving this example to a lot of people. Learn when to kill ideas.
Yeah, brilliant. Also, now I want to ask one philosophical question. So what drives you? I met Mithali, your wife, your daughter as well. You're doing your next startup. I've already lost, receding hairline is still here. And Fresenius, Sparsh was obviously a very difficult startup. Not to say that other startups are not, but it's definitely intense, because I've mildly done healthcare and it's a pain. I mean, if there are some people more arrogant than IITians, it's doctors. Doctors are so resistant to change. Behavioral change in India, that too in Hyderabad, is very difficult. But now, what drives you? What happened when you met the third innings? Like I say, you've co-founded with Samarth. I remember that journey. You telling me. Talk us about that. What was your mindset? Is it the next holy grail? Like, what drives you? How do you get up? Why do you get up? What are you after?
Two things. Number one, as I told you in the...
One sec. And guys, listening to this on YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, I went to that office during COVID, the first COVID 2020. There were 40 people packed into one office, and it's the same small office. And both of these guys are really rich, okay? Small office. I was trying to get one thermometer or something for my dad. This fellow goes in that, and it's like a Mumbai local train, so jam-packed. Peak COVID still gives me that thermometer device, charges me for it, which is okay. And there's people are sweating it out, as in they're just working and working and working. So that's one image that comes to my mind. They're so driven. They're really, really driven, crushing it day in and day out. Sorry, go ahead.
So going back to the first thing that I told you when I was introducing myself, if there was a professional student course or career, I would have taken it because I love learning. So for me, the main driving factor in the next startup was learning. So once I got done with my golden handshake with Fresenius, I started mentoring a lot of startups. And I made it a point that none of these startups will be related to B2B health. One was a fintech startup. There was two fintech startups. One was giving loans to patients, which kind of the entrepreneur wanted me to advise him because I had a lot of connects with the hospitals. So he said, why don't you come over as a BD, kind of head, and we'll figure out if you can become my co-founder. I was mentoring Samarth. I was mentoring another startup also who was trying to do something related to general fintech. In fact, he was making a SaaS software for, this, what are these things called, where 10 people put in money and one guy gets a loan out of that. I'm getting the word for chit funds.
Okay.
And they are going to raise money now. They are basically a chit fund SaaS, but they project as if, lending platform. But so I made it a point that I kind of talk to a lot of people who I can contribute to their startup, but I can learn from them. And in Samarth's startup, what happened, he got Y Combinator funding, and we had discussed a lot of ideas before itself. So he wanted me to join him as the founding member. And it made sense, kind of, funded startup has their own advantages that, at least the capital risk is kind of taken care of.
Yeah.
That part was taken care of. And, I wanted to learn D2C. I had never done anything with internet. I had not used tech to scale up, which I'm learning now. And it has been a lot of fun learning. So this is number one that I wanted to learn, and that drives me. Number two, I want to be young at heart always. So I have decided my next startup will be with a 23-year-old again, because I think I can add a lot of ideas and, with my capability of business development, marketing, I can bring a lot to them. But the 23-year-olds, man, they are the best guys to work with. Energy levels are different.
Yeah. I've seen that in the Web3 community.
Yes. And I am always thinking about how to, learn from them, how to learn to be energetic from them. And I think you will be as old as what is the average age of your friend circle. So I am trying to keep that. So that's my second, kind of.
Yeah. So for those of you, just listening in, or you probably want to know the high summary. So Saurav and GP had sold Sparsh for, I think, I'm guessing probably to the tune of 50 or in the range of 50 to 100 crores or probably more, which is a great exit at that time. Don't want to get too much into the quantification of the details, which is like phenomenal for the whole of the ecosystem, both for the founders, obviously, the angels. So that's one seminal moment, because typically startups have a high start rate. They start up, but there's no close rate, right? I mean, natural death or dying is there, but like there's no like seminal exit. And like you had mentioned, that was great. And then now the context is he's co-founder at GHC. The brand is called Mars. They probably might even go head to head with Mama or the Nykas, etc. They're in that space. D2C is direct to consumer, where you make a product or a brand and you're selling that straight to consumers. You probably know of it like Lux or Dove soaps or Colgate, so on and so forth, cigarettes, so on and so forth. But these guys do something very different. I'll let you guys research about what they're doing. The focus of this theme is to be on Saurav's journey. Okay, cool. So now I want to go to the last part, which is, and guys, those of you listening in who are joining us live, please drop your questions in the chat box, on the Zoom chat box now. Towards the end, we'll take up maybe 4 to 5 questions, the best questions. And I'll be, meanwhile, just asking 1 or 2 more questions. Want to talk about your angel investing. I've always been very interested in the companies you've sort of picked because of your contrarian thinking or your style of thinking. Talk us about that. How are they doing? What did you see in the entrepreneur? How did you assess your gut? And second is, what's going wrong? I want to know from you what's going wrong. Macroscopically, like what do people get wrong? Like many of the people watching this community are just straight up regular employees or staff members or in between jobs, upskilling. What should they, not do? Like, so talk us about these 2 things: your angel investing, and B, what's going wrong macroscopically, because you're putting your skin in the game, right? I know that you do cut checks in the range of, I guess, 5 lakhs to 10, 15, so on and so forth. Yeah.
So I think, a lot of your angel investing would depend on what kind of network you have, plus where your expertise is, because I cannot evaluate a lot of business ideas. So I stay away from, sectors I can't understand. That is number one thing. Number two is, I understand health. So I have invested in a lot of health companies. Like I invested in a company which made it easier for digitizing the records that doctors, take from patients without doctors having to change their behavior. So I look at a lot of these parameters. I know how difficult behavior changes. So they developed a pen which in real time converts everything that the doctor is writing digital. It stores a digital record. So I invested in that startup that just got acquired. I invested in a couple of startups, where my friends, now I understand D2C space. So there are a couple of friends who started this in D2C, and I invested in that. There are sometimes I go back and, make the same mistake of when somebody tries to start a startup, which is very tough sector. For example, like one of guys who came to me and I funded him, he was doing cattle trading.
Yeah, terminal.
And I told him, you know, this is so tough that even if I tell a guy that, you know, there is a lot of money in cattle trading, I don't know of many people who will decide to come back and do it. And that was again a mistake I made, same dialysis mistake. But I was really enthused by, you know, his way of picking up this sector, because it's a big sector and it's a tough sector. So he's going through issues, but primarily I'm looking at, you know, right now figuring out in D2C. I understand a lot of things. So if somebody comes up to me with a very good product, I am going to, you know, I'm going to go ahead and invest in it because I understand it. And I think if I see how that product will make a difference and it can reach more market, then I will look and, you know, kind of evaluate it and invest in it. The other thing is I look at is if a lot of people I know are investing in the startup who know the sector well, I kind of have herd mentality there. So these are either I am the, you know, there should be a key opinion leader. Either it's me with my conviction, or it should be somebody I know who knows that sector well, who should go ahead and invest. Yeah. But right now, to be frank, Jay, I have so many ideas of late by, you know, my own, you know, experience with this D2C, that I would be happy to look for like people who come to me, if they want to start something, they think that online D2C is their game, then I can, you know, come and talk to them about my idea. And if they like it, we can do something together. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. And guys, just want to remind everybody we have only a few more minutes left. So please paste your questions in the chat box right now. Abdul, Abhishek, Akash, Ankit, Dakshinmurthy, great to see you. Draupad. I'm going to be asking one more question and a few more questions. Pradeep, Raji, Reva, Santa, Srinivas. Okay, cool. So the question I had was going back to what's going wrong. Like, what are the things going wrong in terms of trends, etc. You see, maybe macroscopically or micro, or it could be even international. What's also the difference between India and the West that you're seeing, since you've had experience in both areas?
So basically, I don't like negative questions, Jay. Things are going good, actually. Nothing. See, the thing is, when you start up, right now, as I told you, you know, the world is so open, and especially with US investors coming to India nowadays, Indian investors also have a lot of you know, pressure to able to beat them, and they are just looking like. I met a 21-year-old who said, you know, I just put my LinkedIn as startup stealth mode, and I got 3 requests from VCs to talk to. I could have never imagined it, but you know, it is reaching that proportion now. And if you are doing something where you can show some traction, so the good part is a lot of the VCs are looking for traction right now. So unless you are deep into tech, don't try to do too many. A lot of people make that mistake. They try to do too innovative things, and inventive things. You should innovate, but not invent in a startup. Very rarely somebody like Google comes in, and you know, they were also lucky that, you know, their PhDs and all were kind of the ideas which got funded, and they could show something because it is getting funded by the university, and then they could start something on their own. A lot of people do that. If you're in a university, you are working on a very new idea, that is the time when you can invent something. Otherwise, what people are looking for is innovation, where you take an idea and show that there can be traction. So quickly build up traction. And right now, like I would, as I told you, I would like to flip the question. Like, things are very good. If you show traction, it's very easy to get funded and then scale it up. But the problem is, a lot of people are thinking that startup is about how much funds you have, you know, raised. In fact, you know, it can become like is the new rat race. I tell people, like earlier people were saying, I want to do a startup because I want to exit the rat race, but startup has become the new rat race. And I meet very few startup founders who are in there because they like to, you know, do that. The journey is the key, because one of the major, you know, inspirations for me was Manish Sabharwal, who started Teamlease long time back. And I heard his talk, and he had told me very nice thing. He said, you know, I would encourage people to do startup because there is a minor chance that you are successful. But if you are successful, you will be happy. and there's less than 1% chance. And he said, you might be thinking that I'm giving you too little. This is not inspiration. And then he told, I'm telling you, this is more than what is required, because most people who go up the corporate ladder, even at the top, they're not happy. So at least that way, startup, though it's a very less, probability, but there is a probability that you will be happy. But if you do it the right way, if you go through the same rat race mentality, then the chance might be that even at the top, you might not be happy. And that is what people have to be. I'm saying raise funds. That is definitely required if you want to scale up a startup. With the current situation, the guy with the most amount of money will buy you, and he will be better known. But the problem is, you might be actually happier. Look at just that White Hat Junior versus Byju's, or Akash versus Byju's. I would say a lot of people think Byju's is the he's the great guy. I think the White Hat Junior guy is the real stud guy. To walk away with that much cash after 1.5 years in a startup, that's what you should follow. Or look at Akash, such a successful cash-rich startup, being acquired by Byju's, and now Byju's had so much difficulty in even paying them their money. So these are the things I look at. Go to startup, but don't go to a startup and think how am I going to raise the next round. Look at actually making a business. Look at actually making money. Funding will come. Funding has become very easy. It will come. So if you ask me about one wrong thing, I think that's the thing, that there is a lot of pressure on new entrepreneurs to go in and raise money very quickly, even before they are ready.
Yeah.
That might be a problem. Yeah.
Vanity metrics, well, in terms of the business for the long term. Excellent. Cool. So we have some questions. So let's take some questions. I'll curate and I'll just read it out loud. Okay. Okay, Savisachi, how to build teams and have a good culture? And
that's a very good question, actually. So you remember that your initial team members will decide the culture of the company. And after some time, you can't change the culture of the company. It's that difficult after you become big. So it is very important that your first hires are right. You have a mentality. If you think that is the only way you want to build your startup, hire your mirror images. But if you feel that you are in one way very extreme, then hire somebody to balance out that particular aspect of your personality, and then go ahead and next people that you hire, it's very important that they follow this general culture that you are talking about. If you make the first 10 hires, and that's why the first 10 to 15 hires, you should have met everybody of them, and you should always be mentoring them. Once these 15 are set, you don't have to worry about the culture. The culture will build itself. In fact, it will become so strong that you will find it hard to break.
Wow. Excellent. Ramanathan Nagarajan, how to inculcate a startup in the fintech segment?
Oh, that's a very, very specific question. I would not be able to really talk about it, but follow the same metrics. I don't know really a lot about fintech, but break it up into parts. One is sourcing. So either you can say that I will be in sourcing, or you can be in fulfillment, where you will say that you have developed some way in which the back-end NBFCs and banks can quickly assess a loan. That is number 2. Or number 3, you can think of collection. A lot of people actually are, there's a very nice statement by Bajaj Finserv CEO, when he was asked about what do you think about all these startups coming into fintech, and he said that, oh, I encourage competition. These guys will bring in new ideas. My only problem is that they keep saying that this is a lending sector, whereas this is in reality a collection sector, and nobody is focusing on that. And the favorite joke during COVID times that there was only 2 kinds of fintech remaining. Either the founders are done because they could not collect the money, or the founders are in jail because they did collect the money.
Oh my God.
So in fintech also, just figure out whether you have a differentiator in the sourcing space, or in the processing stage, or in the collection stage, and go ahead and dig deeper into that idea and come up with something with it. But whatever you do, you have to talk to a lot of people in that sector.
Okay, great question, Ramnath. Okay, let's take one more. Akash Kumar, I like this question. How do you measure success?
That's a very, very tough question, and it's so personal that it is up to you, because You have to define your success metric. I know one thing for sure is that it can't be money only. I mean, it can be money, but it cannot be money only. You should have some kind of, you would have a personal kind of, path, moral path, ethical path. How much high can you go while following that path of yours is the key. And you have to think about happiness, not just look at it in terms of money. You have to think in terms of, are you happy with what you achieved? And I always believe that if you think you did your best, you would be very happy. And there are a lot of people who have done very successful startups, raised a lot of money, and because of the sector we are in, we know these people. I see a lot of them not being very happy because they're under tremendous pressure, and they're being made to scale faster than what they can handle. And so there are good days and bad days, and it will be there even when you run a small startup. But the key thing is, if you are true to yourself and you give your best shot, you will always be happy. No doubts about it. But it's a very personal. You have to decide your success metrics.
Yeah. I had a question, spin-off from what Santa Rao had asked. What are some of the AI healthcare opportunities that you're seeing, or might be some good ideas, or even blockchain ideas, healthcare?
I think AI based, one very, I don't know how to monetize it, but because I was in dialysis, so the dialysis is not the end game. One of the reasons I did not really like that sector also is because as I served more and more customers, I realized that I'm not really curing them, right? I'm managing their kidney, and they need dialysis next day also. It would be better if we can get a solution where they don't need the treatment again after 2-3 days. And that is actually transplant. And transplant doesn't happen right now because two reasons. One is artificial kidneys far, it's in the future, maybe 20 years from now. But till then also, there are a lot of donors out there, but people are not able to, match. Like suppose you require certain kind of kidney and another donor is there who matches with you. It's very difficult to, get this done because in India, only related party kidney transplants are allowed. Even in US, where unrelated parties allowed, it's tough. So one good idea would be a matching algorithm which takes the database and matches as soon as the new donor comes. Just going through the you can change the matching which existed till now, and you can actually get better matches with every new donor. The best match can keep changing, and somebody who, if you can make an algorithm which does it almost real time, that might be a very good idea, because one extra donor. So if 3 donors come and A is matching with B, B is matching with C, and C is matching with D, and D is matching with A. If you can get this done, then there can be simultaneous surgeries where everybody donates to the next guy with whom it is matching. And these are the kind of things which will become very useful in terms of these are simple things which I had worked in and thought about. But AI is actually even Jay's startup was in that diagnosis, and AI can be very, very good match actually. And there are a lot of startups already doing it. And I think we need to figure out the AI part is actually easy, to be frank. The difficult part is how do you practically make the doctors use your algorithms? They should not be threatened by it. And that becomes a bigger challenge actually. Awesome. How to do that.
Cool. We'll take one question, last question, and then we'll wrap it up. I like this question. Draupad H. How to gather like-minded people to work in a startup?
For this, you have to attend more talks like this and be, maybe ask people. Nobody has asked for other people's contact. You should ask people's contact. You should go to as many mixers as you can go to. And, life is about increasing probability. There is no hard and fast 100%, that this will happen if you do this. Life is about taking small steps which increase your probability in achieving your success. And everything might feel like you might go to some place and not meet anybody good, and then come back and say that, this is waste of time. Or you can say that I did try. There's a probability I met somebody, and try it again next time. And trust me, if you go to enough of these, you will suddenly realize that there are so many people in this world who are like-minded, exactly thinking like you. And you will love to have startups with them. Like me and Jay just met randomly.
Yeah.
And that's how all this startup ideas also happen. And like I told you, I have few ideas, and there are few people I spoke to. They were interested in pet market, and I met them and I gave them some idea, and they've taken it completely. Like they have made it their own, and they have taken it to the next stage. And I'm just an advisor, but this is how it happens. And you have to keep meeting a lot of people, and you will find like-minded people, and you might find actually better ideas also if you go to these lectures. With Samarth also same thing happened actually. One day we just sat, and he wrote down his ideas, I wrote down my ideas, and he liked my idea, I liked his idea. And that is how ideas happen. And the important thing is you should meet a lot of people, whatever you are doing.
Awesome. Yeah, meet a lot of people, continue to increase the probability of success. Cool. With that, we come to the end of the session. Thank you so much, Saurav, for your time. And for everybody who's watching this on YouTube, LinkedIn, or Twitter, wherever, please list down the top one summary item you have from this talk, right? Please watch it again and again. Not often will you get somebody who's, exited maybe for, 7 figures, doing the next company and, investing in startups, and who's, extremely humble and candid about his experiences in tough sectors. By any means, dialysis, urology is very tough. Nephrology, healthcare in itself is very tough, dealing with doctors. So please, I would request you to, I'll be reading all the comments, list your top 1 or 2 comments of what you've learned, what is the takeaway. And if this session has inspired you, if it's, if you want to be on that path to following a passion, I'm sure you can reach out to Saurav, maybe connect with him on LinkedIn. That'll be your first task. Just Google him, find him out, connect with him on LinkedIn, maybe, with his permission, send your idea or pitch deck. His space is around healthcare and now D2C. Cool. Thank you so much once again, Saurav, for your time.
Thank you, Jay, for having me here. Thank you, everyone, for being such nice listeners and for these good questions. And hope to, meet you guys offline, online, anytime, sometime in the future. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. All right. Thank you. Bye.